Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode. This is the first episode I've ever tried to do something like this. I mean, there's been a couple other times where post going to a movie, post-surgery after a movie, I've decided to come on and give some opening thoughts about it. But this is something, well, let's get some housekeeping out of the way first. I will not be doing this next week. I know that's not the first thing you want to hear on a podcast this week, but next week I am going to be off on vacation somewhere, so I'll be unable to do this. So this show will happen, though, but it will be on Tuesdays. But for the most part, I will attempt to do this after every show, but feel free to call the hotline, email the number, tweet at me, send me messages on Facebook anytime you watch the show. And if you want any questions addressed or anything you want us to talk about, anybody I get on here, or just me, or me and my cats talking about creating some blue meth, something like that. So I just want to get housekeeping out of the way. And the reason for doing this, I watch a lot of television. No doubt. I mean, for the most part, a lot of the issues program, I talk about crazy, ridiculous news or based around video games and stuff like that. And even focus a little bit more on movies and culture. But I tend to step away from the fact that I am a television junkie. I've spent my whole life wasted away in front of a television. I was like, you ever see that show Remote Control? If anyone's ever seen the game show Remote Control, is where Colin Quinn was found. And Jenny McCarthy, too, I think. No, she's singled out. Whatever. Why am I talking about Jenny McCarthy? You want to hear about Breaking Bad. But the point is, I watched a lot of television. I was looking around for my list. I do have a list somewhere of all the television shows I've seen. It's quite extensive and quite ridiculous when it comes down to it, of all the programs I have watched. And I'm kind of obsessed with it, and I get way into television programs and the storylines and such like that. So I figured I was trying to find a good show to come back and do this on. And I wanted to do it for the first half of Breaking Bad, but it was kind of in a transitional period here on my desk. I was going to say in the studio, but really it's more of like a transitional period in my desk. I had to move some stuff, so it wasn't appropriate. Or, I can't lie, after watching a television show and getting all emotionally invested in it, watching it for the very first time and not watching it on multiple viewings over and over again, to come in and want to talk about it, I can't lie. And let's get the I Got Issues camera up. I took notes, 2 pages of notes that we're going to talk about this evening. Yes, that's right. And of course, I will take any of your phone calls, tweets, emails, whatever. You got all the numbers out there I sent, but in case you need to know them, 781-990-8509, 781-990-8509. Feel free to call that number or text it. If I don't answer, I will send you over to voicemail and leave me a message about whatever you want to talk about, preferably about Breaking Bad. But I can't help myself a little bit. I'll try to stay on topic. But, as you know, as anybody who listens to my show, I tend to sway off topic. So this will be a great challenge. This will be like Star Trek month was, where I just try to talk about the same thing over and over again. The first thing I did want to talk about is this hype level leading up to it. Before I go on any further, I should discuss this season premiere was pretty freaking hyped up. And I would say that AMC has finally got on the ball. It's funny how in the last little bit of a season here, they finally got on the ball to properly promoting the show. For a long time, it was one of the most well-received programs per people watching it that I've ever heard of in my life, including with critics. Like, it balanced with critics and regular people. The regular folks. They all loved it. And it said a lot of very positive things about the show. But it seemed like the station didn't promote it in the same way and in the same fashion that they go out of their way to promote, say, The Walking Dead. And I think they've done a much better job in the lead up to this to season 5 part B. See, I keep wanting to call it season 6. It feels like season 6. It feels like it had a different. We'll get into the episode itself, but it does feel like it's a brand new season. And it's a short season, obviously, just being 8 episodes, the last 2 were, but I feel like they're 2 completely separate storylines. And already when the episode starts, and we'll get into this in a second when I talk about, when I go through the program itself and what happened this week, you get the feeling like this is a different world. Even the way it's edited, the way it's shot, the way the film stock looks, it looks a little grayer, it looks a little different. Whereas season 5, part A was very fun. It was almost, at times, I mean, a lot of horrible shit happened. By the way, before we go any further again, I need to illustrate one thing about this podcast. Listen at your own will. This will not just be a spoiler podcast for the episode that just happened. We'll be talking about, or I or we, depending on when I get guests on here and weeks coming up here, or if when we get some callers or text. I actually do have a couple texts already. It will be very heavily spoiler. That's what I meant to say. And if you couldn't tell, and I probably shouldn't even tell you, because they tell you when you fuck up something or you mess something up or you're in a less than 100% of a state that you shouldn't tell people, but I'm a little sick. You might be hearing the voice. Yeah, there it is. I'm a little sick. I'm a little, I think the sickness has come back. It's come to get me. So the hype level was really, really huge, and A&E did an amazing job of promoting this and leading up and really raising the bar for this. And I gotta say, as hyped up as I was, and I'm someone that tries not to get too hyped up for things, because in anything in life, I'm always of the perspective you go in with lower expectations, and then if the great things happen, positive things happen, you're pleasantly surprised. Yeah, that's my philosophy. Expect things to suck. So when they're good, you're like, yay, things are good. Oh my god, that's totally cool. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a load of poop. Load of poop, sir. So I was pretty damn hyped up, and I must say, it fulfilled every need I wanted. If I have to put a score in my hype was at a 10, and it hit right at a 10. It gave me exactly what I wanted, minus maybe one or two character things, but I'm very interested to see where it goes. Awesome. And we have Gadi, who's texting in right now, writing in through IM. He has an observation about Walt's conversation with Jesse. I'm going to talk about the entire episode, so feel free to call in at that point in time when we start discussing that if you want, because I definitely a lot to talk about there. And also, he agrees with the great promotion that AMC did. I have to say that I think they saw the model that worked with The Walking Dead, with the overpromotion, the get Chris Hardwick up there to do his thing. The whole process of it, the second screen story sync thing, which I actually have my story sync over in the other room. I meant to bring it with me so I could read some of the interesting factoids that are on there, which does add to the overall viewing experience. I must say, I do like reading little factoids in the commercial break. It helps bridge that gap of watching something live. But I do have to piggyback on one thing I read that Gadi posted out there, and I couldn't agree more. This episode fulfilled my hype, as I said. It blew it out of the water because it hit every nerve I wanted to see. It not only gave me a continuation of something that happened at the beginning of 5-1 when we see Walt with the Swampscott, Massachusetts waitress, and with the big gun and stuff. We got a continuation of that, and then we got to start off right where Season 5, Part A ended and go right into it. And just for many other reasons that I'll get into, it really excited me in all possible ways. But really what it made me want is all the episodes right now. Because before I get into the specifics of the episode, I will say, as I mentioned, Season 5, Part A was a very fast-moving section of a season, especially compared to how 4 led up and even parts of 3. I mean, the show's always been somewhat slow, but comparatively, Season 5, Part A was fast. You know, the heist with the train, the going to the police lockup to fuck up the computer, a lot of the stuff going into the houses and doing the quick setups in the house to start cooking meth that way and finding the different places. The 3 guys, I mean, it was a big focus on Mike, and it was really about Mike's story. Part A was the conclusion of that in some ways. In the same way that immediately from the beginning of this, I think at least at the beginning here, as much as it is always Walter's story, I think Hank is obviously going to be a big part of the beginning section of these episodes, and you really got the feeling like, wow, now you're shifting perspectives and you're looking at this from Hank's perspective and crazy. Whereas in the first couple of seasons, you had it all be about Walt and Jesse. And when we get to talk about the Walt and Jesse scene, I'll get into this, but that's something I've missed to a point in the series, that it's a credit to how well the show is written that they couldn't just keep Walt and Jesse together forever doing what Walt and Jesse do. But there is such a chemistry, no pun intended, between the two of them when they're on screen that you see why the show works so well. You see why why the balance, not just in great writing and great cinematography and editing and everything that the show does so well. And generally in casting, I mean, maybe one or two casting decisions I might raise a little twinkle 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 for, but for the most part, all the casting works. But sometimes all the casting works and there's no chemistry in the cast. We've talked about that many times in references to Star Trek shows, but also in shows like Lost when certain characters came in, or even in a show like Star Trek: The Next Generation with Tasha Yar. Whether she was good or not, but that's another story. But a good actor or a bad actor can come into a mix, and if there's no chemistry there, if two actors are great, sometimes their connection might not be there. I think a good example of that is Natalie Portman in the Star Wars prequel movies. We all know Natalie Portman can act. I mean, there's several roles to prove that, not to mention just one of her first roles in The Professional as a young girl. We know she has the skills. Sitting up there with someone like Hayden Christensen, who obviously she had no chemistry with, and dealing with a lack of a director, there's just no spark between the two characters, and neither actor could show anything that was good about them. I hate to say it, I mentioned this before, there's a Hayden Christensen and Jessica Alba movie where two of the most horrible actor and actresses ever on this planet, when they're on screen together, for whatever it's worth, they have chemistry and the scene works. Why am I talking about Hayden Christensen and all this stuff? It has a point. The point is, when Walt and Jesse are on screen together, there is an amazing chemistry. They are, and I might be quoting Gadi from years ago mentioning this, but so ding ding ding, let me give Gadi his 2 points credit if I am quoting him. 2 points for Gadi. That they are like a modern day odd couple. And even to the point in this episode right here with the way that they anticipate and deal with each other is very polar opposites from the perspective that they're coming from. And Jesse, again, I'll get into it. Jesse is a smart mother bleeper. He is a smart guy. Oh, we also have another texter that says, this episode hit a home run for me. Definitely. My hype was crazy, but it really was awesome. Yes, it was awesome. It was really awesome. I agree. It was so awesome it makes me want to eat a Pez. Where's my Jean-Luc Picard Pez? Well, get cameras up. Cameras up. I got to make it so. Make it so, Phil. Pez. Yes, it is time for Pez. From Captain Picard. Sugar does it. Sugar gets me going, baby. Gosh. So, there's nothing better than listening to a boy chew Pez. Hello. This is the Pez dispenser. My jokes all this weekend have all been about Pez. My band played a show the other night. The microphone didn't really work, so you couldn't hear me vocalizing or doing my thing. But in between sets, I made Star Trek jokes and talked about Pez. And that was a hit. So, my initial thoughts, as I mentioned, were, why am I doing this? Because I love television, and I want to talk about television more. It's not fair to the people around me that have to listen to it all the time. So I'm going to talk out here, and maybe I'll gather some more folks that want to talk similar about TV shows right after they happen. Because I like the concept of shows like Talking Dead, or now Talking Bad, where right after the show, you get together and you talk about the show. Ooh, let's talk. Let's communicate. But I don't think those are good shows. And I want to bring to you some sort of forum where you get my perspective in my own issue style, and it gives me an excuse to get on the air more than just the one day a week. And as if this works out and is fun, I might do it for other shows in the future, like Sons of Anarchy, maybe even The Walking Dead, and who knows, the new Star Wars series that's coming out, the new Marvel, blah 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 blah. It is endless, or maybe I could just do a once a week TV podcast. We'll figure out the format later. So, first question, hype level. My hype level was 10. The show hit the 10. It did. It didn't exceed it. Didn't exceed my hype. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is even better than I thought. The beginning was, but we'll get to that in a second. So, now it's about time. It's about time. Hayden Christensen is in a movie about the New Republic. Right role, right setting, and he was brilliant. He sucked in everything else ever. I would say I agree. He does suck in everything else that I've seen him in, pretty much ever. He even sucked in this movie I was talking about with Jessica Alba. It's just when they were in a scene together, especially at the very beginning of the movie, they open it up with this scene that they must have practiced a million times, and I think that in the right situation, any actor can kind of, in repetition create something that's good, especially if you have a connection with another actor. I've seen people with lesser abilities, when they have some sort of connection, it creating some sort of magic, so to speak. I think that works in all kinds of art forms. There's certain bands or indie filmmakers that don't necessarily have lots of talent, but they have the greatest crew around them, so they create something magical. So in our character breakdown is how we'll start each episode, with what happened with our characters and who gets the most points. Now, we didn't get any shot of Todd this week, Matt Damon's younger brother that likes to kill kids and play with their bugs. No Todd sighting this week, and which is weird to me, considering that Todd, the actor that plays him, we're going to not call these people by their acting names. We're going to call them by their stage names, by the only names we give a crap about them. And so we will call him Todd, or Matt Damon. Matt Damon is also acceptable to refer to Todd as. Todd was not in this episode, but he got signed up to be a main character this year, which is a little weird to me that he didn't jump into the episode at some point. We did have a Walt Jr. sighting today, and some sort of references that could lead us to the fact that Walt Jr. will become a meth addict. That we can all hope. But we've got some references to his college career and yada yada yada, super Walt Jr. stuff. Marie kind of got the bump, got the bum rush this episode. We didn't have a lot of Marie, which is a shame because I always like her scenes and I always like her side stories. I find her shit ton more interesting than Skylar in general, and I'm excited that Marie is going to be married to Michael J. Fox coming up soon in the Michael J. Fox television program that's coming onto NBC that I hope is good, which I have good feelings about. I have good, warm, fuzzy feelings. But Marie's best moment was in the car crash tonight. Now the baby still looks cute. What's the odds that the baby's going to be dead? Oh, he was in the credits. He was. He probably was in the credits. He was signed. Him and the woman who played Lydia were signed for main characters for this 5B. So I expect them to be bigger parts of the story, which I'll get into when I talk about the episode in more depth. Which leads me to the belief that we have to see Walt cook again. Which is a question for the show, which I'll answer at the end of the show. Will Walt cook again? That's one of the big questions. The other big question is what will take him down? We know that he survives a year on the cancer. The cancer doesn't kill him in 6 months, because we know at the very beginning of the episode that's a year later at his 52nd birthday when he meets the Swampscott, Massachusetts waitress. So what exactly brings him down? What brings his house to look like that and all that shit? Part of me thinks that has something to do with Madrigal and something connection with Lydia, but I mean I'm jumping ahead. Oh, whoops! Yanking on my own cord there. Skylar's looking a little bit better. She's looking a little bit better. The grief is gone. She's starting to lose a little bit of the grief weight, getting back her figure. Skylar's still having the blatant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man look though a little bit. Let me see. Is my camera on? Can I flash the Stay Puft? I'm small. Let me turn up my light. Oh yeah, there I am. Now I'm pretty. The Stay Puft look. There's the Stay Puft look. Wow, I'm right under Walt's head. That's a weird place for me. I should go the other side. Go down. Go under Jesse's head. Yeah, there you go. That's better. Dude. That's right, bitch. That's right, bitch. I seem better over there. That's a better side for me. That's a better angle. So yes. So Skylar was looking a little bit better, had a little bit more personality than towards the end of half. And I understand she was having sort of a breakdown in that section in 5A, but I found her the most annoying character in 5A. I couldn't wait to get rid of I couldn't wait for Skylar to I can't wait for Skylar to leave. Yeah, the warning on the house looked like the feds. It did. The spray paint written Eisenberg in there kind of put me off a little bit for being the feds, but I don't know. That's it. It looks like the feds roped it off, but something bad might have happened inside with Mexican cartel people. As much as Fring did handle the cartel, I mean, there has to be some ramifications for what happened to Fring somewhere. But I don't know. We'll obviously get to it which is why I need to watch this now. And to go to what you were saying before with the post you put out, if this was released in Netflix, I would watch this all tonight. All of it. Immediately. Then we have Hank, of course, who I got 2 check marks today for the biggest crazy motherfucking episode. And I do believe, like I said, this is going to be Hank's season. Hank's reaction was very honest, very crazy. And as I mentioned, right when they took it from that point, from Hank's perspective, the camera shifted. The look in the camera changed. It got a little grayer, a little more faded. It was a very interesting, subtle touch that I think that the director of photography chose there. A little more iris, like the eyes are opened a little bit, and I really do appreciate that. I assume it was intentional because this is the type of show that I believe that every light, every angle, every pull focus that you're dealing with has some significant meaning. The person that spray painted Eisenberg all pissed off. It was all the Polos Hermanos managers that were all pissed off that needed revenge because of all the locations closing, and none of the Popeyes in the area is wanting to employ them. That was Popeyes. They're just a fucking nightmare, dude, wicked pisser. I've been living in this town, caught the winning touchdown pass, dude, and I failed at a frickin' Popeyes. Okay, back on topic. Badger and Skinny Pete. Okay, we're going to get to Badger and Skinny Pete, but they get a AAA+ for tonight's episode. And not to mention, I have to give a lot of credit to the Breaking Bad writers for actually giving a shit about some of the Star Trek goofiness that was going to be talked about. Lydia also gets a plus in my book. I would like to see Skylar eat Lydia, physically, like put her in the mouth and eat her. That would be funny. Walt is frickin' Walt. And I'm going to get specifically to Walt when I get into specifically talking about the episode right here, but I do want to touch on one thing about Walt. Walt really shows the depth of his madness and how easily in and out of Eisenberg he can go. And how much he was trying at first to really do what he's explaining to Jesse in that scene, to try to put it all behind him. And to see when and how Eisenberg finally comes out in this episode is very, very interesting, and we'll get to that. But great Walt, especially mixed in with the cold open that we're going to talk about. You really, again, see the journey inside of Walt, and it's sad. It's sad. It's sad and it's funny. The show still manages to put in the humor, but where there's no humor, and I'm kind of getting sick of it. Getting a little sick of it, just a little bit. I'm getting sick of depressed Jesse. I think Aaron Paul's doing an excellent job. I do. And I get that this is supposed to be such a short time, so he's still not over the events of Gale. If Jesse's a little bitch for the whole season, I'll be pissed. I'm one of those guys that would be screaming at Andy Kaufman, yeah, give me Laka. like I don't mind you doing Vic, whatever the changing characters is, but I do want a little bit of Laka in there too sometimes. And that's the thing I want Jesse to rain a hellfire on Walt. And I want to see Jesse enjoying it. But let's just get into this. I've enough foreplay. Let's get into the episode itself. Now, this episode starts where it starts pretty much right after the cold open of 5-1 starts, where we see Walt getting back into town after picking up the big giant gun from the guy. And full hair, coughing like he has cancer, like he's all fucked up, but he has his full head of hair, looking a little skinnier too, maybe it's the hair, and we pulling up to the white residence that's all boarded up, that looks like the FBI or some other police matter has sealed off the house. So Walt breaks in, and also at the beginning of that scene, I think it's really important, a really awesome mood maker. I really love the choice of the skateboards rolling around the pool to give you that hypnotic kind of queasy stomach, spinning around feeling of everything that Walt must have been going through over the last year. And you really, right just from the first shot you get of the spinning skateboards, you get that feeling, that inertia. It's just inertia, dude. But whatever it is, the spinning tops, or, it really, the gravity of it, the balance, it just freaks you out and gets you right in the mood right away. And that's what I was saying, that every shot seems to count with these guys. And I mentioned that the subtle changes in iris levels or color. The color in this section is even different than what we're going to get to in a second. It was almost exactly the way it was in the 5-1 cold open 2. Very raw camera. Almost looks like it's completely bleed. All the colors are very much bleeding in. It's like a video camera almost, but not. I mean, enhanced because of the film, but you know what I mean. It's very clear picture. You really see every hair on Walt's face. And whereas Breaking Bad a lot of times will have some filter on it that showed you the perspective of either someone on drugs, perspective of Walt with his head getting bigger and things like that. I think the show really takes cue from theater, using different gels and color lights to create different themes and emotions just from the way the scene looks. I think that's one of the things that's most amazing about the show. We have another texter that says, I agree, I miss Jesse being a badass, or being funny at least. Jesse's just kind of depressing now. And I agree with you, he is. And I don't mind that happening for a little bit here at the beginning. He didn't have a lot of time to deal with the events that happened to that kid. And I think it's safe to realize, and something I can relate to as well, when you're someone that feels like you fucked up your childhood or lost your childhood in some ways and have connections to kids, like they're the ones that you can talk to. Like when you're talking to kids, you finally feel good. You feel good because you feel like you can see that innocence through their eyes again, and you can see your own innocence. And I think that's what's happening with Jesse. He's looking to children as a way of cleansing himself. Hence what he's trying to do with the money, which I'll talk more in depth about, but he's trying to find any way to cleanse himself of that murder of Gale. And I think no matter what he does, he's not going to get rid of that. Walt is right to a certain extent when he tells him he just needs to pack it in and get over it. It's in the past. But that's where that's hence the odd couple thing, and where Walt and Jesse are completely different people. Walt is someone that can let that go. He can just go on with himself and just rationalize anything he does. Maybe part of that has to do with the cancer. Maybe part of that has to do with the gray matter situation, that fault he had in his life, and that one regret. Who knows exactly? I tend to think it's just a character flaw inside Walt that his head got too big and his ego just kind of bursted it open. And once the balloon's busted, you can't really get out of it. Walt probably always had that ego inside of him. He just never had the balls to let it out. And just like Joe versus the volcano, when someone gets in that position to be able to think that they are going to die anyways, a lot of times they'll go do amazing things because they think that they have nothing to lose. But I think Walt was always an asshole. So I really love the cold opening and how it looks. And it's really gritty. So you see Walt going to his house is destroyed. And I mentioned this before when Gadi and I were talking about this, or when Gadi said something on the message, that it was, you see Eisenberg spray painted across the wall in his living room. And the house is completely trashed. And all these kids are in his backyard skateboarding. So then Walt goes to the outlet and unscrews it and removes the resin. And then goes back out to his car and puts it in his trunk where the gun is and drives off. And that's our cold opening. So that begs a lot of questions. Who is he going after here? Who does he need to kill? That to connect to what Gotti was saying, that the FBI is the ones who blocked off their house and did all this shit to him. Why would he be going after the FBI right now? Would he be going to kill Hank? Does he have the gun to, I mean, he's obviously not going to, he didn't come back to protect himself. He came back to get some business done of some sort. Someone he loves is in danger, or he's seeking revenge on somebody. He knows he's going to die. Maybe he got his he thinks he's going to die any day, and he just wants to go out in a hellfire, a blaze. But who does he want to kill? My money's on some connection to Lydia and Todd. I don't know. When I'm guessing, I don't know. Well, let's get into the episode, and maybe we'll figure this out along the way. So we know this is right by his 52nd birthday, and his cancer has come back. We know right in here that his cancers get back, and what I think the best part of this show is right at the end of that scene, right after he put the resin in his trunk, he closes the door, he's obviously been there. Something really crazy has obviously happened. No, I didn't. I'm about to talk about it now. I forgot you're on tape delay. He, right before he puts all the guns and all his weapons into the trunk, he turns around and obviously, like I said, something crazy must have happened at his house. A gunfight. Somehow his house was trashed. And his neighbor, he turns to his neighbor who's freaking out carrying groceries out of her trunk and just freaks out, and he just turns to her in this really deadpan look and just goes, "Hi, Carol." And she just drops the groceries, and that's how it ends. That's hilarious. That's the humor that Breaking Bad brings. Wow. And it's brought back later in the episode when he sees her again, and he says the same thing to her, but it's before those events, so you see how excited she is to see him. So you can it just salivates you more to imagine what the hell possibly could happen, or what was going to happen. So after that, oh, bat. I'm like, what am I reading? What am I reading? And I'm reading on the back. Right when we get back from that cold opening, we're brought right to where we left off with Hank in the bathroom. And there's some weird sounds coming from the bathroom. I can't lie. All the questions have to be asked. I have to say them all. Does Hank wash his hands? Does he wipe? We know he must have dropped a duty. We know the duty was dropped. And also, why do you think Walt left that in the bathroom so brazenly? Did he think he was untouchable? Was he just lazy, or one finally got by him, or is it the age-old he wanted to get caught? I tend to think he thought he was untouchable inside of his home, and he underestimated Hank as a cop in a lot of ways, or thought he would always get the better of Hank. Maybe he will. So right when we get off, we get right back, right with Hank getting off the toilet. And this is what I was saying before when right in this scene, which I watched season 5 part 1 several times in the last couple of weeks leading up to this. And I didn't watch the whole episode leading up again tonight, but I did watch the last 15 minutes of it leading in. So you got a feel for the color and the visuals of that scene before Hank went into the bathroom. And when he came out, as I mentioned, they opened the iris a little bit in the camera, and everything's bright, and you can just see the look on Hank's face. Everything starts to change. He stumbles out of there, he fakes being sick, and he gets Marie out of there, and they get out in the car, and he has a Tony Soprano sort of panic attack in the car, and he crashes his car. Seriously, for a moment I thought I was watching The Sopranos, because it always, so many Sopranos episodes ended with some sort of car accident. So Hank knows, he's freaking out, he steals the book. I forgot to mention he stole the book. He steals the book, he throws it under his, that's a good question. Gadi mentions, given his reaction when he noticed it missing, was he just sloppy? I mean, he obviously knew where it was. He thought he knew exactly where it was. I guess it's a bigger question. Do people consider that people read what they put in the bathroom for them to read when they go to the bathroom? Did it ever occur to him? Did it ever occur to him that someone might read that and put two and two together? Did he connect the dots? It's got to be sloppy, because he knows that Hank knows that. Like the scene that Hank flashed back to, Walt Whitman, Woodrow Wilson, Walter White, got me. Walt's got to remember that. He's supposed to be this, as you said, the genius with the master criminal mind. Is this something that just slipped his mind? Was he sloppy about it? Did he not forget about the book? Me personally, with that book, I would have burned it. But that's Walt's ego. He kept it as a trophy because he liked the kind of respect that Gale gave him. It was his one big mistake. But the thing is, I guess I wonder why he made that mistake. Again, was it the sloppiness? I tend to think it was more along the lines of ego than sloppiness, thinking he is untouchable. I think in a certain way Walt feels like he cannot be taken down, and even if he is busted, especially at this point, he feels like, no, boo boo, everything that sticks to you sticks to me, is just like glue. He feels like no one can touch him. No one's as smart as he is. That being said, a lot of stuff that he's gotten away with has been on the basis of luck. If you really think about it, Jesse easily could have killed him for the Ryzen situation with Brock, with the other little kid. I think his name's Brock, the kid that Walt poisoned to get Jesse on his side with Fring. And that's another thing. Jesse, I mentioned that before. Jesse's a smart motherfucker. He knows Walt better than Walt knows himself. Walt might be able to talk Jesse out of things, or did in that front, when Jesse calls him on his bullshit, but Jesse knows how Walt's mind works. He is Eisenberg. So so the family sees, blah, blah, blah. Everything is a new color, and it's like kind of like a dip. He took them all down. I'd say in some ways, I don't know, the Tuca situation was really smart, like knowing exactly what was around him and everything like that. That was pretty amusing. It is Brock. Good, I was right on the name. I tend to think that the Fring situation was a little bit more luck in some ways. It was a smart plan. It really was, but it was a lot of variables that he needed to go his way, and it worked out. He outsmarted Fring to a point. He got him in a very, very precarious situation. But I think obviously Jesse was the cure of that. So, as I mentioned, Hank stole the book. He goes home and gets out the other handwriting to balance out to make sure that Walt's the guy. And it is. And he knows for a life. And he knows right when he reads that, right when he sees the two signatures back to back, you see this look in Hank's eyes. And I think that's why it's important they went through that whole thing with Hank's boss and how Hank's boss with Fring ended up losing his job and losing all of his credibility because he vouched for Fring. And Hank's worked his whole career to get to this point in his life. And it's difficult now, because he knew, and you could just see the look in his eye, that he knew that he not only found out Walt's secret, he basically saw the end of his career. That how stupid was he? So I'm kind of dwelling on a lot of things. Initially I wanted this just to be an hour. Initially I was like, I could wrap this show up in a half an hour. Then I was thinking, it could be an hour show. Now I'm probably gonna stretch it a little longer than an hour this week, but next time I won't do as much foreplay leading up to why I'm doing this, and I'll get right into the episode right away. But so right after that scene with Hank discovering and Hank at Marie's saying he's going to take the week off from work just to kind of play home Columbo, play Murder, She Wrote at home. We get to look at how Walt's life is normal. He's getting a good life as an owner, in the last month, taking more of a part of his car washes and starting to look at the car wash as more of a career thing, thinking about how he can make more money at it. Him and Skylar's relationship is getting better and better and better. And then we get what I think is a kind of a funny part. We get Lydia showing up at the car wash asking Rocky to fight the fight. Rocky, you go come out of retirement and fight Apollo Creed one more time. No, I'm not going to fight the fight. You get out of here. And then we get the Skylar Lydia showdown, which was fun. Seeing Skylar look at her like she was a snack about to eat. Like she was like fucking Walt or something like that. But that brings up one of my important questions I wanted to talk about tonight. Will Walt cook again? I think he has to. I doubt the show's going to go out like that when it comes down to it. I think that we will have a scene in this part with Walt and Jesse cooking again. I don't know how it's going to work. I hope it's not convoluted in the way it comes together. But I have a feeling that somehow we at least will see Walt cooking again this season before all is said and done. I think Lydia's not to be trifled with. Mike was right when he wanted to kill her. He was sexist. So we get back to Hank, and he's off work, trying to decide if he wants to end his career or kill Walt. He gets the boxes of the caseloads, and he does the super cop duty. And this is where I really love Breaking Bad, because it gets into the quick editing that they like to do to show action, where it's going all over the place, and you really see Hank's mind working through the editing. They did this a lot with Walt and Jesse making meth and doing activities, and it's a Breaking Bad trope, and I really enjoy it. It's something very. It's an interesting way to do something that's been done for a while, but usually in comedic ways, and they do it in a very serious way, and with a wink and a nudge, which everything is done with Breaking Bad with a little bit of a wink and a nudge, because it has that black comedy Coen Brothers feel to it in some ways. But so Hank looks at pictures and he's looking at pictures to look deep into trying to find the one mistake that Walt made, to find any mistake, any trip up that he can bust Walt. And that's the thing, you got to think that Walt's a pretty careful guy. I mean, he fucked up with the Walt Whitman book, but for the most part, Walt covers his bases. He's not stupid. He knows how to cover his bases and things like that. So it's scary to the fact that Hank is really looking into this, going crazy, doing this Hank thing, trying to find Walt at all costs. And And it's intense. You can just see the crazy, intense glances in Hank's eyes as he's trying to figure this out. And as I said, mention also what he wants to do. Does he want to kill Walt? Does he want to? What's he gonna do with his family? Does he give a shit about that? What's he gonna do about his career? Like he obviously cares about a career, but he cares about being lied to. He cares about what's right and wrong. A guy like Hank cares about justice more than he cares about anything else. So then we finally get to see Jesse, and Jesse's just sitting there looking like a miserable in his super chair, in his Star Trek chair. No, and then we get the Skinny Pete and Badger scene, and they're talking about Star Trek, and they're making all these references to transporter beams. They're basically making a reference to the parallel universe episodes and the Double Riker episodes where we learn about how transporters, everyone's a carbon copy of the person, and it's really quite funny. And then Skinny Pete, I believe, or it's Badger tells the story about a Star Trek episode he wants to write, and it has a Voyager reference, which is hilarious too. So you see that the writers that put that scene in really did their homework, and the two guys sell it. It's about an episode idea they have of Star Trek where they all have an eating contest, like one of those Kobayashi, which is I didn't even think about that. I wonder if there's some reference there, some sort of hidden reference there that one of the eating champions of the world, his name is Kobayashi, and the Kobayashi Maru connection with Star Trek, excuse me. Bite my tongue. Star Trek. I was talking about Star Wars earlier. It gets confusing. Star this, star that. They're both directed by J.J. Abrams. It's confusing these days. Give me a break. The last Star Trek movie seemed like a Star Wars movie. It's getting more and more confusing. The lines are blurred everywhere. But yeah, so I get my geek life is complete where I get a Star Trek reference on Breaking Bad. That made me feel awesome. So Jesse is still darkened, and I talked about that. I'm kind of getting a little sick of Jesse's sad bullshit, but he goes over to goes and meets up with Saul and starts smoking a joint in the lobby to get brought in because Saul's in there getting a happy ending massage. But Jesse, this is probably the coolest Jesse moment of the episode. He just sits there and lights a bone, and they're like, you can't smoke marijuana in here. It's kind of a funny scene. So Jesse goes in there with the $2 million that Walt gave him, and Jesse seems to know something, especially about Mike. It's like a couple of references he makes here and there. It just makes me think that somehow, I don't know, again, with Todd, I don't know if Todd told Jesse about what happened, or if Jesse was spying on them and saw like them getting rid of Mike's car or something like that. Like, Jesse seems to know that Mike's gone. And Jesse wants to give money, $2.5 million to Mike's granddaughter and $2.5 million to the kid that Todd shot, and the parents of the kid that Todd shot. So we get some funny Saul moments, and Saul kind of discourages him from doing it, but it turns in back and forth, and eventually he agrees to do it, but immediately calls Walt up on the phone to ask Walt's help in this matter, and that he shouldn't give the money to these two people, which I was slightly disappointed because I wanted to see Mike's granddaughter get some money. I like Mike. So then Walt gets the phone call, and this is when we find out for sure, even though we already knew before, but we found out absolutely for sure that Walt does have cancer again. It's flashed to Walt going through chemotherapy and saying he'll take care of it. So which leads into probably the scene of the night. I mean, there was a lot of great scenes in the episode, but as I mentioned, when Walt and Jesse get together on screen together, Walt and Jesse together get together on screen, when they're on screen together, the chemistry is brought up a notch. The show level gets brought up to that next level of from fucking amazing to unbelievable, better than sex amazing. They just have this incredible balance between the two of them with dialogue and with emotions. And Walt goes over there and to bring back the money to him and be like, what the hell is going on? And basically explains to him that You need to not be depressed about this. We did some bad things. It happened in our past. It's all over now. It's all over now. It happened in our past. We just need to move on with this. There's nothing you can do about it now. All the giving them $2 million is going to bring them back. Why do you want to give? And then it all kind of gets hovered around. Why do you want to give Mike's family money? You don't think Mike's going to take care of them? And Jesse basically deduces that, or it seems like he deduces, but it really seems like he knows that Mike is dead. He's just like, well, you couldn't have got away with killing all those guys in prison because you'd always look over your shoulder, and you're not the type of guy that will ever leave that stone unturned. And so you killed Mike too. Mike's gone. And someone needs to take care of his granddaughter because that's what Mike would want. And Mike was actually my friend, and you're just a user, Walt. Go fuck yourself. And I get, what's interesting here is I get both sides. I get that Walt cares about Jesse. It does not seem like Walt does not care about Jesse. It seems like he looks at him really so much like a son, like a real son. He takes ownership of him. But a really manipulative father that needs to control the emotions, like kind of like a stage dad, really needs to, baby him. But yet another thing that gets blocked between the two of them, and it makes me wonder: does Walt, what could Jesse find out to make him want to kill Walt? Would it be that he killed his girlfriend, let his girlfriend die? What he poisoned Brock? I mean, what would set Jesse off completely? I mean, I really do believe he thinks that Walt killed Mike. It seemed in that moment like Walt is so blind to the fact that Jesse could actually completely leave him or not believe him. Like, Walt really makes it a point to be like, you need to believe me. He begs him. It just seems desperate. It seems so obvious to... I mean, we all know that he killed Mike, but it was blatantly obvious that he was just saying, Jesse, get the fuck over it, and I'll kill you too. It almost seemed like that. I believe Walt really does, like I said, does love Jesse, though. And feels a connection to him. And wants to be loved by Jesse. I think Walt's a very jealous guy, and I think Mike and Jesse's relationship really irked him as well. That they had a legitimate friendship, whereas Jesse and Walt have more of a. It's always been a teacher-student relationship type of situation. So we're gonna get Gadi on here for a little bit. Hey, Gadi, how's it going? Good evening.
It's going good. Here's my thought, right?
Yeah, go for it.
Jesse is very perspicacious, very detailed kind of guy, and he can, if he thinks about it, pick up on what somebody says and figure out what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
When Walt said that, the story about when he last saw Mike.
Yes.
Right, and then he said, so. For all I know, he's alive and well. For all I know,
yep,
means that, hey, he could have survived that bullet.
Yeah, it's for all I know.
It means something happened, but for all I know, he might have, it might not have done what you think it did. As opposed to what Walt should have said, if he hadn't killed him, he would have said, as far as I know.
Yeah, as far as I know, he would have said, Mike is fine. Mike's off. Or
right.
just been...
Yeah, as far as I know, I saw him going.
But Walt seemed so desperate in that scene. I think a little bit of, because of going through the chemo and stuff, a little bit of his facade was probably cracked a little bit. And in his mind, he really needs Jesse's support to help him rationalize, because he can't deal with Jesse's conscience leading to make him feel any guilt, because Walt doesn't want to feel it. He's in such denial. He doesn't want to feel anything about the horrible things that they've done. It's interesting to me. I
agree.
Oh no, it's interesting to me that Jesse. I mean, like I said, I think Aaron Paul's doing a great job, and I think it makes sense that Jesse would be this emotional about everything. I guess I'm just I'm wondering. I'm wondering when that turns more into what we see in the end of season 4, the second to last episode of season 4, when he confronts Walt about the Brock thing, when he draws a gun and is rageful at Walt, or when he beats the shit out of him, and kicks him off his property or something,
and not just sullen about it.
Yeah, exactly. When's that going to turn?
Yeah.
When's that going to turn around? Because I mean, I have a feeling maybe it will turn around. I keep mentioning Todd, where he'll like kill Todd, where he'll just like find him and kick the crap out of him and kill him, and then Todd's going to admit that something about the Mike situation, and then all bets are off. But and then the other thing is Jesse going to survive? Who is going to survive here? We know Walt survives. But
yeah.
We know Walt survives, but
right,
who else survives? It's ridiculous.
And yeah.
So
and really, our speculation is one thing, but what do we know about what went on in the house, and who, you know?
Exactly. We don't know anything about that. I mean, we ultimately we know that Hank knows, obviously, and I'm going to get to that in a second as I proceed through the episode. And please stay with us as long as you want. But we know Hank knows. We know him and Jesse are already on their way out to a certain extent. And if Jesse finds out certain things, and this is the last thing I'll talk about this particular scene in Jesse and Walt's interaction. And I mentioned this as you were getting on the air. Which thing would drive Jesse to rage? It would be the Brock thing. If he finds out that Walt poisoned him more than anything else.
Yeah.
And the problem with that
Valley.
is that's not going to. He probably won't find out because we know that the ricin was still in the house. So Jesse probably never finds out about
that. In the last episode in 5/8, I double checked Walt when he cleans up things, you know, after the explosion and all, or the whatever it is that goes on in 5/8, I forget. But he gets rid of the plants.
Yes, he does. He definitely does. And it's one of those things that another thing that he's smart about. So, and like I was mentioning earlier, I love the scenes with Walt and Jesse together so much, and I appreciate that the script was smart enough to not just throw them together for stupid reasons. It always means so much now when they come together, and I hope for a lot more Jesse and Walt scenes as the season progresses. I hope that they don't have two separate storylines through most of the rest of the series. So from that point, we get to Walt going home in the regular dinner, and Walt throwing up and going into the bathroom and discovering that the book's missing, and he immediately knows that the book's missing. So the sloppy thing is interesting there because he did notice. You know, he wasn't sure about it, but he was pretty positive he knew where the book was, even in his state, and his mind immediately went to the fear of Hank, or to the fear of what the hell happened. And within that scene, we discover that he goes outside and finds a GPS tracker on his car in the same way that Hank has done in the past. And that is an amazing scene right there where, again, to the shift of colors, you get this, for the first time I think I've ever seen, like, even when he was in the house crying and stuff about the money and all that shit, that was more rage-filled and sad and everything. This was the first time you really saw Walt scared. You know, you saw, like, the Walter White come out there and be like, oh, my God, what's going to happen here? You know, he's just like...
Well, back to the guy before he started liking this life.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes down to it, what do you think that moment was? What do you think the moment was when he started to like it? The killing of Tuco? You think from that point on was when he started to kind of enjoy this life?
It was around then, those events, you know, blowing up the fulminated mercury.
Yep.
I think that whole thing when he first established himself as kind of a dominant figure, and he started the Heisenberg legend started taking hold.
Exactly. And the Eisenberg started to kind of take hold of himself. Like it kind of took hold of him. So basically in that scene, it leads up to Walt knows that Hank knows. And then we got an interesting scene with Jesse driving around and giving a homeless man money, kind of like that part in Coming to America when Akeem gives the money to Mortimer and what's his name from Trading Places.
Yes.
Yes,
that was awesome.
Yeah, it was a great scene where he gives a homeless man money, and I think it was acted very realistically by the homeless man, who at first is like, what? I almost half expected, but I'm glad the show wasn't too heavy-handed there. The homeless guy to give him back the money and be like, I don't know where this money's from, or something like, like the blood money comment or something that was going to come back. But the show, this is a good show, not stupid. So it didn't do that, and the homeless guy took the money, and Jesse drove off and started to proceed to open the windows and throw.
He sort of made it hail.
Yeah,
it was, it was like
exactly. Yeah, you know that expression that the kids like to use, making it rain when they throw the money down.
Yeah, no, he made it hail.
Yeah, he made it hail. You made it hail, guys. And he was dropping bombs left and right, and he was just throwing cash everywhere. And apparently, that's how he's going to spend his $5 million. And amen, but like my problem with that, and I guess this is where I kind of agreed to a small extent with Walt and Saul, that Jesse's gonna feel bad for a long, long time. I guess maybe that's the selfish Jew inside of me. I'd rather be sad with money than sad without money. I'm not saying money buys you happiness, but I'd rather be sad with money.
Yes, it does. Who the hell ever said that money doesn't buy you happiness? Because that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Some poor guy did. Some really poor motherfucker said that. But we won't talk about him. It was the old man that I think it was the old man that lives in the shoe said that originally. But you know what I'm saying. It would be like I'm depressed anyway, but I'd rather be depressed and anxious with lots of money. Then at least I could build a fence around the house to keep the alien people out from climbing into my ceiling and bleeding through my ceiling into my living room and making me call the cops like a crazy person named Bonnie. Anyways, so we go on.
Quick bit of trivia that I figured out. If you count the numbers, Walt is a serial killer. Jesse is not.
Yeah. No. Hey, amen to that. Jesse.
Based on the number of murders.
Jesse ultimately only killed
Walt
one
is
person,
actually a serial killer.
Jesse only killed the one, right?
Two. Gail, and then
a guy in the firefight.
Yeah.
In a firefight, he killed the guy protecting Mike. Yeah, I forgot about that one, but yeah, it's so Jesse, he makes it rain. He's gonna throw money everywhere. I'm gonna actually go outside and look on my curb after this podcast and see if there's a stack right there.
See if AMC has people going around.
Yeah, just checking to make sure. And
you wouldn't believe our promo budget.
Yeah. This show will go to a whole nother level if that happens here. So Jesse, I appreciate what Jesse's going through. I'm curious to see, and we'll talk about this in our closing thoughts when we talk about where things are going to go. But I'm interested to see where Jesse's arc goes this season. Does he give away is the whole season just going to be quick flashes to him driving around the country throwing money at us? Would that be funny if that's all we see Jesse this season? Like driving cross country, throwing money like Forrest Gump. It's Jesse Pinkman, It's a spin-off. I keep running against the wind. Oh God! Sometimes it's golden.
Yeah, rub against your wind, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Mama always said life's a box of chocolates, bitch. So Jesse's storyline's very interesting. What did you think of Skinny Pete in Badger's whole Star Trek scene? Wasn't that amazing? Wasn't that amazing?
That was incredible.
I love this. Like I mentioned, I love the subtle references to the Riker, to the multiple Rikers, to the parallel universe, and then the Voyager reference.
But it was just so perfect because it was so awful but he was serious that he thought it was a great script.
Yep.
And 1,000 Star Trek fans who totally all have the worst script in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're like,
this is the greatest idea. And also, as I mentioned, the best part about it is you can obviously tell the writers didn't, like, I've heard Star Trek referenced or Legend of Zelda or other things that I'm interested referenced in many things, and I'll use an example of like a Law and Order episode where it's referenced, and they're just like, yes, he used to play Legend of Zelda on his Nintendo Wii while watching Batman, or something like that. And it's like there's not much reference to it, whereas this put in, and obviously who the writers or the actors that improv'd a little bit knew enough about Star Trek to make like all the references work in some warped sort of way.
If they improv'd that with all that, I mean, it wasn't. I guess it wasn't too detailed to be improv. It didn't have references that you couldn't just
right. It was more like I was actually, when he was saying Tornaberries or something, he's like, oh no, that's from the Gamma Quad. Like I was like, oh wait, is that Deep Space Nine? Did he mess that up or something? And obviously the storyline involved, I mentioned, an eating contest, and that Chekhov ends up beating Spock, but at the end, Scotty accidentally beams his guts and stuff like that. It was ridiculously horrible. So, but I thought that was fun, and I'm glad to see at least they made some sort of appearance in there, because I find those guys are hilarious, and and they always add a lot. Like, just for small actors in that show, they add a lot more to me than Skyler and Walt Jr. add, who are supposed to be bigger characters in the show. I mean, for me at this point, Skyler and Walt Jr. just serve as things that I think are going to be dead. That to drop, I think one of them's
Walt
dying.
Jr.'s fine. He was always a minor character, and he serves his purpose.
Yeah.
Skyler is going to be part of Walt's undoing, because I think Skyler needs to stab Walt in the heart. From Hell's Heart, I stab at thee.
Yeah,
then the auto-destruct turns on.
Yeah, you got to
bye, Skyler.
You got to think that once she knows that Hank knows, and she's gonna be Team Hank and Marie. She's gonna take the kids and go over. She might be letting Walt sleep in the bed and but she doesn't forget. And
wait, doesn't she already know what Hank knows?
She doesn't know that Hank knows he's Eisenberg now. She doesn't.
Right. No. But she doesn't. No. But Hank knows that he's Heisenberg, but doesn't she basically know that he's Heisenberg?
What was that?
Except
you broke up for a second. Could you repeat yourself?
Doesn't she basically know that he's Heisenberg?
Oh yes, but I'm saying once she knows that Hank knows that Walt's Eisenberg, I think she's going to side with them.
Oh. Well, you know what? She has to.
And turn state's evidence.
She's laundering the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think she's gonna blame it on him, cry, oh, Walt took advantage of me, blah 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 blah, and a whole bunch of shit, and really backstab Walt.
Oh well, and stuff about the kids and.
Exactly. I think Walt Jr. The reason why I think Walt Jr. might die is because I think if anyone's going to stay loyal to Walt, even when he finds out everything, Walt Jr. is going to put himself in the wrong place at the wrong time and end up getting into an accident or something. And
you just don't understand. And if Dad made the drugs, it was only the help.
Exactly. Dad just wanted to buy me a car, and so I could have so we could have that horrible scene. So
new pair of crutches.
It's interesting that kid actually really does have cerebral palsy, but it's not as bad as he portrays in the show.
Yeah, he has to play it worse.
Yeah, which is horrible. Kind of awesome. Yeah, which you feel bad. It's awesome, but you feel bad for him, like in the sense that he must like go to like other conventions with other people. They're like, "You're making fun of us, man." They're like they like fuck him up. It's like this cripple fight of South Park. They just all beat the crap out of him and stuff. But so the whole episode concludes with Walt confronting Hank. Hank's all Columbo.
Oh my God, that scene!
Oh God, amazing. Hank is all Columbo in his garage and has all doing the whole Murder She Wrote thing, and like has all the boxes from the Fring case that's been that's since been put on the back burner because of the his boss reprimanding him at the end half of season 5 part A. And and he's figuring it out, trying to find that loose end, and he basically figured it out because he saw some of the footage of the bank, the heist that they did to destroy Fring's computer, and he saw someone that kind of looked like Walt, and he saw the artist design of Eisenberg, and he kind of put it he put it together. He got enough circumstantial evidence to back up like the hard evidence that he has with the Gale book to realize that he isn't just thinking this, that Walt is for sure Eisenberg, and he knows it. So Walt comes, and they have the little bullshit talk for a few seconds, not talking about the actual issue. And Walt does his Walt thing where he talks about something. And this is actually a Walt thing. If anything, Breaking Bad repeats. This is one theme that it repeats, and it's more of a person thing because people do this. Walt says a bunch of stuff that doesn't mean anything, and then he walks away and goes, "Oh, one more thing," and then he turns around. And it's kind of like what happened with Mike. Like, he gets in an argument with Mike, turns around, comes back. He turns around and he goes, "Oh, Hank, what's this?" And he pulls out the GPS tracker and his thing. He goes, "You've been tracking my car? What's going on, buddy? Hey, buddy, what's up?" And he's still just trying to be nice to him. So then Hank lowers the garage door thing because there's like some kid out in the street playing and stuff. And it's just like, it's just funny. He totally has like a Bryan Cranston moment there. And I guess Bryan Cranston directed this episode too, so much props to Bryan Cranston. And he just looks at Hank and he's like, "I don't like the way you're looking at me, Hank." I just love how he says that. "I don't like the way you're looking at me, Hank," because right at this point he already knows that Hank knows. He's just trying to he's trying to be a little coy.
You did. I mean, but you noticed that once Hank figured it out, he didn't look at when he came out of the bathroom out of the house, he didn't look at Walt.
Yeah, he wouldn't look at him. Like he walked. I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
He like, not even that, he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't bring himself to.
Right.
So the "I don't like the way you're looking at me" was like really like something was about to the air was heavy and the thunderclap was about to hit.
And you're right in the sense that, and I didn't even think about that till now. And a good point. That was the first time that he actually looked at Walt since finding out. Right up until that point, even when Walt was in the room there talking to him, he had his head down and wasn't really making eye contact. He actually looked at him. And then Walt's like, "What's up?" And I forget exactly what Walt says to trigger it, but Hank just fucking punches him like really hard and just goes, "It was you all the time." And they just have this whole big talk, big argument about it, it's you, you were the guy. And Walt, of course, denies it at first and keeps denying, and then basically comes to a point where he says, "Well, Hank, my cancer's come back, and we don't want this to destroy our family."
The usual play for sympathy.
Yeah, we don't want this to destroy our family. Hank's like, "I don't give a fuck about our family. I'm going to put you under the jail. And you're dying? Good, you're dying, you son of a bitch. Fuck you." It basically is what he says. And
slight correction, he said to Walt that Walt didn't give a fuck about the family.
Right, exactly.
Because of what he had done.
Exactly. I actually missed that. I thought that Hank said that, but you're right, he did say that. Yeah. And then Hank, it all leads up to him just pushing at Walt, being like, Walt's trying to be good about it, trying to be nice, trying to like basically be like, "Come on, Hank, I'm gonna die. Why prosecute? Why put the family through this? Do you know what you're gonna, what will you do? What will you do in this situation? This is bad, and then Hank's just staying at it like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna kill you," blah, 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 blah. And then right at the last moment of the episode, like the last lines of the episode, finally, it's like he can't deal with it anymore. The Heisenberg finally comes out, and he just turns to Hank and he's like, "Well, Hank," because this is what happens. Like basically, Walt's like, "Listen, Hank, what can I do to make this better? Can we do anything to like make this work? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna die. I'm just a dying man now. I quit." He basically said, "I quit now. I'm a dying man that owns a car wash. What can I do?" And Hanks basically instructs him to bring Skylar and the kids over to his house because I'm going to arrest you. Get the kids out of the house, get your family out of the house so I can bring you down. And Walt just looks at him in a Tony Soprano way and goes, "That's not going to happen." And right as Eisenberg, basically. That's not going to happen. And Hank turns to him and goes, I don't even know you. Who are you? I don't even know who I'm talking to. And then it comes out, like Walt, like on cue. It's like he tried to hold this back and he couldn't hold it back anymore. Just goes, and I'm paraphrasing, well, if you don't know who I am, you better tread lightly. And just gives him this look. And you can just see this look on Hank's face that, like, Hank just was like, what? Like almost the same look like when you read the thing on the toilet. Like there's a wonderful YouTube video that adds a little sound cue of poop falling right there. Right when Reed sees the Eisenberg thing, right there it was like you could like see him just like, okay, and then the episode just ends. And like I said, this might have been from beginning to end one of the most perfect episodes of the series, just because it does exactly what you wanted to do from beginning to end. It didn't, like I said, didn't overhype. It just made me hungry for more. It set the scene that you know is going to be the scene for this season. Jesse driving cross country, throwing money out windows, and Walt and Hank's Hank's little dance.
Make it hail, bitch.
Right, exactly. Jesse making it hail, bitch, and Walt and Hank dancing. But great episode, and the Eisenberg right there, because honestly, Hank does not know who he's dealing with when it really comes down to it. Like, would Walt was that an idle threat? Would Walt kill Hank? I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I don't know, but think about it. Like Lydia said about the feds were going after one part of Madrigal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is the DEA in New Mexico big enough to handle Madrigal defending itself?
Yeah, and this leads into the final part of the show here. What do we think is going to happen next week, and what do we think this episode means for the future of the season, of how this is going to all end? For next week, I don't even know what to expect for next week. I'm floored. I don't even know where to begin. I assume that Lydia is going to not take no for an answer. That Lydia is going to pressure Walt somehow to cook for her. And somehow, again, I'll mention Todd again. Todd has to come into this somehow. The actor's signed as a main character for this season. Somehow he needs to make a return. The only thing I can think of him making a return is with Jesse driving around cross country making it hail. But he's going to eventually, that rage is going to turn, that the 7 levels of depression or 6 levels, how many levels, whatever, however many levels of depression there are, of loss, it needs to eventually get to anger, and that rage needs to go somewhere, and that's going to go to Todd. I'm convinced that Jesse's going to kill Todd, and so maybe that's how he comes in. I don't know if that's going to happen next episode though. I guess we're going to have to see what Hank does next episode. Next episode should be about Hank. Okay, I guess that's our big question here. Like, let me narrow this down because I'm all over the place. What is Hank going to do? What do you think that Hank's going to do from this point on? What's Hank's next step?
Well, if he has enough evidence, he's gonna try to take Walt in.
Does he tell his wife? Does he go after Skylar? When does he bring the rest of the family in?
I think he brings Skylar and the kids to his place, and he goes after Walt. And I think that Walt, as Walt always does, comes up with something up his sleeve to protect himself from Hank.
Okay, so I think I'm getting an idea here. But you've got to also think that at this point, since Walt knows that Hank knows, Walt has to go to Jesse and protect Jesse, and because it's not going to be long. It's not going to be long before Hank connects the dots with Jesse now and goes after Jesse, because he already has a
and Hank
already has a
has
hard
it
on
in
for
for
him. Yeah,
Jesse.
pardon the expression.
Yeah.
He already has a hard on for Jesse. And
I was going to say that, but I didn't.
so Hank is going to go after Jesse. So you got to think that in the next episode, you're going to see Walt and Jesse together again. Walt going to try to tell Jesse to get out of town because Hank's on to them, and seeing what they're going to do about that. Going around destroying every piece of evidence that they have linking them to anything. And maybe that's where the problem happens, because Walt gets scared and thinks he needs to take out Lydia and take out his connections to Madrigal and take out Todd and his whole gang of the breaking and entering people, because they're the only connection to Walt. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe that's what's going to happen here. Walt's going to need to go in the offensive to try to cover all of his bases. Because this is something I was going to mention during the Lydia section. Did Walt get out of it too quick? Is that going to end up becoming a problem? Because of what happened, the whole situation with Skylar at the end of 5A, when Walt basically said, "I'm done right now," and just jumped out, and within a month was out of the business. Did he give himself enough time to tie up all loose ends? And is all that going to come and haunt him in the end? Ugh, it's crazy. Oh, we have another texter that says, excuse me, it says cough, 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 cough. We obviously know that Walt does not die of cancer in 6 months. Will Walt actually get arrested? I don't think Walt will ever be handcuffed. I personally don't think it will ever come to that. I don't think Hank will ever get that close. I do think I could see Hank arresting Jesse.
You know why Walt won't be handcuffed?
Because he's going out and up.
Because there's nobody to come to Walt's rescue.
Yeah, it's true. Because Jesse's not coming to his rescue. Saul's not coming to his rescue.
No.
But if exactly. I mean, and that's another thing, listener. 496. We know that at the end of the season that Walt is gone, leaves for a year, and comes back to obviously rescue somebody. Who would he come back to rescue? I don't think he would have left if Skylar was still alive or still supporting him. I don't think he'd come back. I don't think his son would be in danger like that. I don't think his daughter would be in danger like that. My hunch is that somehow he's coming back to save Jesse. This is again a guess, that some shit goes bad and he disappears and Jesse's in danger and he needs to come back to save Jesse. That's a guess. That's my guess for the future of the way the season's going to end. But that's too simple. That's too simple. I mean,
well, it doesn't have to be the only thing that brings him there.
No, I know, but I'm just wondering. I guess I'm wondering the cause of returning. You know, like what exactly brings him to that point? And I think this is the genius of the way that they're setting this up, because ultimately, if you know the beginning and you know the end of a book, or at least the beginning of the last chapter of the book, but you don't know how it gets to that point, it just drives you nuts that you want to know. It's brilliant writing in the sense that it really, this episode has salivated you for more than any other episode of Breaking Bad to date. That's why I say that I like it. This episode has really gets you to want to know this whole season, the way that they set up with that, with seeing the future beforehand. It's very exciting. And I think that's just to bring up another show for a second. I think where Lost never delivered, that was where Lost's potential was. That's what people loved about like the potential of Lost, but it always gave you blue balls. It never satisfied you in the end. Whereas Breaking Bad, I can already see how it's gonna give you the Saul happy ending. It's gonna zip you right back up, and it's gonna give you what you want. It's not gonna soprano you. We're not gonna get a cutoff right at the last moment because David Chase is
actually.
Do you like the end?
I think it was either Bryan Cranston or Vince Gilligan who said, "Yeah, no, we're not going to give you that, did he or didn't he
bullshit. Yeah.
ending.
And
you're going to know exactly what happened when we're done."
And the problem with the Sopranos thing, just to touch on the Sopranos for a second, is just because David Chase is he's one of those guys that has a little bit too much. He wants to be the cool kid so much that he needed to do something over intellectual, and he wanted to leave the door open to do a movie potentially, because he was always hoping to do a movie eventually later in life, like a Trial of Tony Soprano movie. But obviously, that unfortunately is not going to happen. But
not a possibility.
Not a possibility now.
But no, I mean, all he did was get every single fan in the country to jump up and think their cable went out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not. That's what we did. We were like, what happened?
Me too. But with me, I kept looking at the clock and looking at the screen and being like, something's got to happen in this short amount of time. Meadow's going to get hit by a car. Oh, no, it's not going to get hit. Oh, she's pulling in. She's triple parking. Oh, what's going on there? Oh. It's what? And then it goes silent. It's definitely an Andy Kaufman joke. I'm convinced that Andy Kaufman is not dead, and he actually directed that episode, and it was
just
yeah.
Somebody on a discussion group was like, well, what ending did you want? And somebody followed up with one that had pictures and sound.
Yeah, I don't care. Honestly, I don't care how a show chooses to end. I'm gonna like it or dislike it. Ultimately, and I can analyze it and decide whether I think it was good and whether I liked it or whether it was good or not. I do believe that either way, David Chase copped out there. I tend to think that I understand the perspective more that he died. If
I mean, you go back through the whole
progression of the episode.
Go on.
Yeah, no. If we go on to the whole progression of the episode and we look at the way that the scene was shot and the way that the scene cuts off, and if we connect to something Bobby said earlier in the season about when you get shot, everything just goes silent.
It just goes black.
It just goes black. If we want to connect to all of that, then I can accept that. If he just did it as a joke, or the people that are the lifers, so to speak, I don't get that mindset as much. I think if that was the case, then he did it just to be a dick. Then it was just a dick move. If it was an artistic choice to symbolize death, I don't agree with it. I think it was too snooty and highbrow to really pass, and in a lot of ways poorly done from an editing standpoint. I think they could have stretched out the moment a little longer and done it better, as a
I believe what you're saying is theater major for it didn't work.
Yes, exactly. 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 Did you notice I fell into theater guy.
As a layperson, it didn't work.
Yes, exactly. I fell into theater mode. I fell into my assistant director mode of technically the motivation in the scene wasn't established enough to truly motivate change. But back to Breaking Bad here, and I'm going to end things off. It really I don't think that this show is going to, and to repeat myself, I don't think this show is going to give us those kind of blue balls. I don't want to get into who's a better showrunner, who's a better creator, who's a better this, that. The Sopranos was a wonderful story, and they dealt with some issues that other shows didn't have to deal with for these great programming. Breaking Bad did not have to deal with the guy that plays Hank dying in the third season, before the third season starting, and having to completely rewrite basically the rest of the series because one of your main characters passed away that would be a major force of the series. Who knows how the Sopranos...
Nancy Marchand?
Yeah, who knows how the series would have ended if they had done what they wanted to do, which season 3 would have been the trial of Tony Soprano with Lydia testifying against him, and how that would have proceeded. You probably wouldn't have had season 4 with
It would have been so much more a coherent show.
Exactly. It would have had a close. You probably would have had Tony in jail for some section of the show, and I bet you would have had like a jail season of The Sopranos, seeing him run it out of jail. You know, who knows where you could, you just would have opened up the show for more possibilities, and at the end, having him finally kill his mother could have been a good close to the show. You know, or something like that. You know, who knows? I'm rewriting history, but I think The Sopranos, in some ways, narrative-wise, fell into some problems because I think David Chase from the very beginning wrote the show in a basis of a relationship he had with his mother and about how, she was controlling, and it really inspired him to write that. And I think
and then it needed to be about something else.
Exactly. And then it became more about a war between New York and then he just didn't know how to end that story rewardingly enough and kind of wanted to, and again, over-intellectualized it at the end. I don't want to get this into Vince Gilligan is better or worse or anything, or the show's better or worse, but I do think that him, Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul, specifically those three, really care about this show and know how much influence and how much importance it has to so many people right now in television, that they're not, whether everyone's going to like this ending or not is a different story. I'm sure we're going to come on after the season finale and we might have problems with it. I might have some callers or a listener that didn't like it or that had some problems with it. But I don't think it's going to be because of lack of effort or trying to be too coy or too... I don't think it's all going to end up a dream in Jesse's chemistry class when he wakes up and he looks up and Mr. White's been teaching him the class all the time and it's all an imagination that he had during the class because he's doodling, imagining Mr. White making meth because he's giving a lesson like Mr.
And there was this dude and his name was Gustavo Fring.
Yeah, exactly.
And he owned these Polo's
chicken
restaurants.
place, yeah, because he was eating at Polo's. Yeah, exactly. Like it's all a comic book that Jesse's drawn, about in the middle of his Mr. White class. Or that Jesse takes state's evidence and ends up becoming a chemistry teacher. I don't think the show's going to end either one of those two ways, okay? Like, that's all I'm saying. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning into this week. We had a few listeners, but some calls, some text. We appreciate that. As I said, next week, this show will be out. I'll probably be put out as a podcast on Tuesday because I will be away on Sunday and Monday. And so I will be watching the show from a distance. I might record the show from a distance with my friend Mike in a low quality audio, depending on my situation. But who knows? I will be playing in a cards tournament, in a poker event down in the Foxwoods. So I will not be around next week, unfortunately. And again, this week is one of my busiest work weeks of the year, but after this week is over, I am much freer man for the rest of the fall, coming into the fall and the winter, and I can get back to a normal schedule. There will probably not be an issue show this Thursday. I apologize to that, as I mentioned, but as you can hear already, my voice is a little bit scattered and blah, 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 and doing 5 work days, which is a lot of yelling and screaming as well, is causing my voice to be a little shreddy. So I need a little bit. But I don't want to end up having to take 3 or 4 weeks off because my voice fails me. So it's better to just take it a little bit easy this coming week. But I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank everyone for checking out. You can check out my website at issuesprogram.com, and I'll have this posted. It's not going to be an audio podcast. I'm going to just post this right up to YouTube the old school way, and then link that video. I am recording it as audio as well, but what I'm just doing that so I can use audio clips for issues programs later, so we can put together what we're saying now against what we're talking about later, and have easy access to that to see how right we are in later weeks about our predictions and our situations like that. Gadi, I hope you'll join us every week we do this because I know you'll be watching the show.
I would be glad to.
So thank you very much for joining us, and everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I know this is a little different than a normal issues show. We're having fun. We're getting silly here, but I also like analyzing and really thinking about these television programs and looking at things a little bit more depth, in a little bit more depth, and thinking about it from a artistic standpoint. Because I think in this day and age, and it gets said a lot, we are in a golden age of television. But I think it's been for a while since shows like Oz, Sopranos, since HBO's real real golden age. And I think the true art and a lot of the real creation of from cinematic purposes are happening in the television medium, in shows like this and shows like Orange is the New Black, and even shows like Sons of Anarchy, which isn't as deep, but dealing with a lot of powerful issues and powerful themes. I find television shows very much like the old plays of old, where you deal with a lot of character development over a long period of time, and I just like that medium so much more, and I really got to thank Deep Space Nine for really founding my love for watching television shows like this and character development. And I think we can all thank Deep Space Nine and Oz for this, for all this great television. So next time when you're on your pillow,
There's a mix.
when you're going to sleep on your pillow, you're watching these great television programs, thank Captain Sisko and Tim McManus for making this all happen. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you guys next week with next week's Breaking Bad podcast, probably coming out on Tuesdays, and maybe I'll surprise you and come out on Thursday if I'm feeling frisky. But who knows? If not, I'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gadi. Have a good night.
Good night.
But you don't have to go quite yet. But I'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody. Later.